Thinking is the only thing we can control in life. If you can control your thinking, you will control everything else. Tony Robbins. People cannot choose where they are born, cannot prevent the rain from falling or storms from coming, but they always have the right to choose how they perceive and react to all those things. Thinking, therefore, is not just simple thought, but the rudder of the ship of destiny. When the rudder is steady, the ship, even in big waves, will not drift aimlessly. Controlling thinking does not mean denying sadness or difficulties, but learning to place them in the right position. A failure in negative thinking is the end, but in positive thinking, it becomes a comma, a pause to gain momentum and continue. Thinking is like soil. If you sow seeds of fear and doubt, you will reap anxiety and deadlock. But if you sow faith, gratitude, and perseverance, that soil will bloom, no matter how harsh the weather. It is the way we think that will determine the emotions we carry, the actions we choose, and the path we take. When mastering thinking, people gradually regain a sense of agency in life. We are no longer victims of circumstances, but become students of them, knowing how to listen, reflect, and grow. Positive thinking does not turn life into rose-colored glasses, but it gives us eyes bright enough to see the sunlight even when dark clouds still linger. And from that inner mastery, lasting peace, strength, and joy are born, allowing us to walk more lightly and steadily on the journey of being human. Believe in yourself and all that you are. Within you is a power greater than any challenge. Christian D. Larson. Amid the hustle of life, we easily get caught up in seeking external validation and forget that the strongest motivation lies deep within. Belief in oneself is not blind arrogance, but a clear understanding of one's own value, abilities, and potential, even when results are not yet visible. Each person is like a seed carrying within it an entire forest. Though outwardly small and fragile, when meeting the right conditions and with enough patience, that seed will rise, breaking through the hard soil to reach the light. Challenges are like that thick layer of soil, heavy, pressurized, sometimes making us feel like we can't breathe. But it is in the moment of being pressed down the deepest that hidden strength is awakened. When we believe in ourselves, we allow ourselves to stand firm, even if our legs are still trembling, to keep walking, even if the road ahead is foggy. That belief does not erase fear, but it prevents fear from taking control. It turns questions like, "Can I do it?" into affirmations, "I will try." And sometimes, just one small step with enough belief allows people to cross boundaries they once built themselves. Within each of us always exists a silent, enduring strength greater than any storm. When we learn to trust and cherish that strength, life is no longer a series of frightening challenges, but becomes a journey of self-discovery, where each step carries hope, courage, and inner light. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca. Where has my time gone? Human life, after all, is not short if every moment is lived fully. However, we often let days pass unconsciously, swept away by trivial worries, unnamed fears, or habits repeated to the point of blurring the meaning of existence. Time does not disappear. It is just silently consumed through times of procrastination, indifference to the present. Time is like water flowing through fingers. The tighter you grasp in vain, the faster it slips away. Some complain that life is too short to achieve dreams, yet spend hours in hesitation and self-doubt. Some wait for a perfect tomorrow to start, without realizing that today is gradually becoming an eternal yesterday. Wasting time is not just doing nothing, but also doing things that bring no value to the soul, that do not bring us closer to the person we aspire to become. When realizing this, people begin to learn to live more mindfully. Each morning is no longer a meaningless repetition, but a new opportunity to choose. to love more, learn deeper, and live more authentically with oneself. We cannot extend time, but we can make it fuller just by cherishing every minute, turning ordinary things into meaningful ones. Life will no longer be a fleeting series of days, but become a profound journey where each moment leaves a gentle but lasting imprint on the mind. The time you use is more important than spending money. If you spend money wrongly, you can fix it. But time that has passed never returns. B Norris, Reader's Digest. Money can be earned back, lost, and still have a chance to make up for. But time is different. Each second that passes is a part of life quietly departing without leaving a way back. Time is like breath, only felt in the present moment, and once exhaled, we cannot inhale that same breath again. People are often very cautious when spending money, thinking carefully before each expense, but lax when spending their time. Hours pass in distraction, procrastination, or unnecessary concerns. And then, when looking back, we realize we have traded precious years for things that bring no lasting value. Time, therefore, is not just a unit of measurement for life, but the material that shapes life itself. Where we invest time, our life will take the form of that. When understanding the irreplaceable value of time, people begin to live more selectively. We learn to dedicate time to things that nourish the soul, to genuine relationships, to learning and growth. We don't always need to live hastily, but we need to live consciously. Because if money is the tool to build external life, time is the foundation that creates inner life. And when we cherish every moment we have, life becomes profound, fulfilling, and with fewer regrets when looking back. Endless calamities have one fortunate aspect, which is that they eventually temper those who are tormented by them. Seneca, calamities, when appearing in succession, often leave people exhausted, doubtful, and feeling like there is no escape. It erodes faith, tests endurance, and forces us to face our deepest limits. But it is in that chain of harsh days that a silent process occurs. People are shattered, then recreated in a stronger form. Calamity is like fire. With the weak and soft, it burns. But with metal, it tempers. When all external supports collapse one by one, people have no choice but to turn inward to find strength. We learn to stand up after falls, to endure without losing dignity, and to keep going even with a heart full of scars. Those lessons cannot be learned from books or advice, but only etched deeply through painful and persistent experiences. The fortune in calamity does not lie in the pain itself, but in the person we become after passing through it. Those who have been tormented by life often carry a different depth: calmness in the face of events, empathy for others' pain, and a quiet strength without show. They understand that not everything can be controlled, but how we stand firm before storms is always a choice. And when looking back, they realize that those dark days have forged them into a more resilient, steady version, strong enough to continue on the path of life with an inner self tempered by the fire of trials. The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Epictetus. Living in anxiety over things we cannot hold. We worry about others' thoughts, fear changes that haven't happened, agonize over things past and unchangeable. That clinging makes our inner self gradually chaotic, like trying to hold water in the palm. The tighter the grip, the faster it flows away. Things outside control are like the weather of life. Others' opinions, luck, the past, or distant future. They exist, move by their own rules, not changing direction because of our desires. When we place too much value on them, we unwittingly hand over control of our emotions to external circumstances. A compliment can make us elated. A criticism can bring us down. A small event is enough to throw the mind into chaos. At that point, We no longer live by our choices, but are pulled along by things not under our control. Conversely, when people learn to let go of obsession with external things, an inner space of freedom gradually opens. We realize that the only thing truly ours is attitude, thoughts, and reactions. Like a rower who cannot command the water, but can adjust the oar, we don't need to control the whole world to live steadily. Just by holding the inner self steady, external changes will no longer have the power to sweep us away. When focusing on what we can control, actions, efforts, sincerity, and perseverance, people regain mastery over life. We become calmer before praise and blame, stronger before events, and freer in the soul. Because ultimately, true control does not lie in holding everything, but in the ability not to let things out of reach dictate our value and inner peace. Remember that you must behave in life as at a dinner party. Is anything brought around to you? Put out your hand and take your share with moderation. Epictetus. Life is not a battlefield where we must scramble for everything, nor an endless feast where we greedily gather to fill our hands. Like a grand banquet where each person is a guest, invited, welcomed, but not the owner of everything on the table. In that banquet, some dishes are brought unexpectedly. Joy, opportunities, love, success. When they come, we don't need to refuse or doubt, but can gently reach out to receive, enjoy, with gratitude. But moderation is the key point. A polite guest does not hoard, does not take others' shares, nor eat to the point of forgetting surroundings. Similarly, in life, knowing enough helps us fully enjoy what we have without being obsessed with comparison or bottomless greed. There are times, at the banquet of life, the dish we expect does not appear. At that time, we learn patience, not getting angry at the server or blaming the banquet, because understanding that we are only part of the whole, we will be calmer before shortages and losses. How we behave in those moments speaks more about inner depth than anything we possess. Living like a banquet guest is living with mindfulness and humility. We cherish what is given, know when to stop, and leave without regret. That attitude helps people maintain serenity amid gains and losses, joys and sorrows. And when looking back, we realize that what makes the banquet of life memorable is not how much we took, but how we were present, with gratitude, moderation, and a peaceful soul. You always have the right to have no opinion. Marcus Aurelius. In modern life, we are surrounded by countless opinions. What to think, which side to choose, how to react to every event. Silence or neutrality is sometimes misunderstood as weakness or indifference, but in reality, choosing to have no opinion is a mindful action, showing the ability to master the inner self and not let oneself be drawn into unnecessary emotional whirlpools. Not every issue requires speaking up, and not every question needs an immediate answer. Sometimes, keeping silent is like stepping back to see the full picture more clearly. When we hastily express opinions, we are easily swayed by momentary emotions, crowd pressure, or the desire for recognition. Conversely, when we allow ourselves to have no opinion, we maintain freedom from meaningless arguments, from having to defend a viewpoint we haven't fully understood. The right to have no opinion is also the right to protect inner peace. Like not every dish at a banquet suits our taste, not every topic in life needs us to taste. We can politely step back, observe, listen, and choose not to participate. That does not make us less valuable, but on the contrary, shows we are steady enough not to be pulled into every wave of public opinion. When understanding that silence is also a choice, people become lighter. We speak when words have meaning and stay silent when silence is necessary. That selectivity helps us live more authentically with ourselves, maintain inner depth, and not waste energy on things not core to our values. In a world that always demands reactions, The right to have no opinion is a subtle but powerful form of freedom. The consequences of anger are much more serious than its causes. Marcus Aurelius, the cause of anger is sometimes just a careless word, a small action, or a fleeting misunderstanding. It can be as small as a spark, but if not controlled, anger will flare into a flame, burning calmness, reason, and relationships built over long time. Anger makes people say words that later they themselves do not recognize, act on emotions instead of consideration. In that moment, we think we are protecting our ego, resisting injustice. But when anger passes, what remains is often regret, distance, and cracks hard to mend. A relationship can crack because of a few minutes of temper. A wrong decision can leave consequences lasting many years. Compared to the initial cause, those losses are much greater. Anger is like throwing a stone into a calm lake. The stone falls in a blink, but the ripples spread far, touching shores we didn't expect. We not only hurt others, but also hurt ourselves, because inner peace is the first thing lost. When anger becomes a habit, it gradually erodes the ability to understand and blurs wisdom in behavior. Recognizing the immense consequences of anger helps people learn to pause before speaking, pause before acting, and give oneself a silence to see clearly what is truly worthwhile. Controlling anger is not suppressing emotions, but transforming it into calmness and understanding. When we do that, small causes will no longer have the power to cause great consequences, and life will become lighter, more profound in every relationship and choice. The best preparation for good work tomorrow is to do good work today. Elbert Hubbard. We often look to tomorrow with grand plans, perfect intentions, forgetting that the future is not formed from vague wishes, but pieced together from small actions in the present. Tomorrow does not naturally become better. It is the direct result of how we treat today's work. Doing good work today does not necessarily mean doing something grand or beyond ability, but putting full mind into what is being done, whether a familiar task or a new challenge. When we work with focus and responsibility, each action is like a brick placed neatly, silently, building a solid foundation for tomorrow. Conversely, procrastination, doing superficially, or waiting for a more favorable time only makes that foundation patchwork, easily shaken when facing future pressure. When we complete today's work well, we not only create concrete results, but also train discipline, confidence, and a sense of agency. Those qualities follow us to tomorrow, helping us face new work with a steadier mindset. Success, therefore, does not come from sudden leaps, but from the persistent accumulation of days lived and worked consciously. When understanding that today is the most practical preparation for the future, people stop waiting and start acting. Each morning becomes an opportunity to do a little better, a little deeper. And when tomorrow comes, we realize we are ready not because everything is perfect, but because we have fulfilled what needed to be done in the present.